You throw Casey Concepcion into that mix?
Can I tell you something, Pat? It doesn't feel good.
Yeah, go ahead.
I can't stop drafting Jerry Jeudy in like round 16. I'm not proud of it. I don't call my mom after and tell her, look what I did. But I like KC. He's still just a rookie in a horrible environment. Is he talented? Yes. Jerry Jeudy had 1,200 yards in this offense in 2024, man. Denzel Boston could be better than Casey Concepcion. They're both going rounds ahead of Jerry Jeudy. Like, I think it's a wide open situation with 3 talented wide receivers, and Jeudy is by far the cheapest. Also, a trade candidate if things happen to go wrong. I would have to say Jeudy, if he gets traded to any other team in the league, would instantly be rising up the ADP charts. Give me some Jerry Jeudy this year. What can go wrong?
Were they able to fuse the arm of Jameis Winston onto one of these Browns quarterbacks? Because that could be the real issue here with Jerry Jeudy.
Pat Mayo Experience.
Welcome to the Pat Mayo Experience, digging back into football. We're going to be doing this every week from now until football actually ramps itself up. Ian Hartitz from FantasyLife.com on the line with me. Jake couldn't make it. Jake can never make it, can he?
Jake's busy bee here in the summertime, so respect to him for getting out there and touching some grass. I think it's actually like a work trip in Chicago this weekend. Must be nice, but I don't know, Pat. Like, is Chicago even the capital of the Midwest anymore? Because they're not going to have a football team pretty soon, from what I can gather.
Let's start there. We're just going to kind of recap what's been going on in the NFL, get caught up a little bit, and the Indiana Bears are on the table as a real thing now. Do we think, when would this even happen if it happens? Because it's not a done deal yet.
So I will say the Gary Bears, if we roll with that and we get the Gare Bears going, there's something to that, Pat. I don't know. We'll workshop a little bit more, but I don't know. I guess the Giants and Jets are in New Jersey, not New York. Cowboys aren't exactly in Dallas anymore. So not the first team, but like literally crossing the state border. I don't know. I went to college back in Chicago back in the day, and all my friends are, actually reminiscing about Miss Lori Lightfoot and maybe, the chances of her actually holding on to your football team again. But yeah, man, pretty wild. Again, like just stick it out at Soldier Field. I don't know.
Well, Soldier Field's downtown, right?
Yeah. It's right on the lake. It's beautiful. It's older, but
Is that the whole deal, that it's so old? Why can't they use the stadium anymore?
The battle is like if they want to go out to Arlington Heights, I believe. If any Chicago natives are listening, I'm sorry if I'm messing it up slightly. And then just the other issue is just once you're pushing it out, I mean, the traffic there is already horrendous, as anyone knows. I mean, maybe not quite LA or New York bad, but not great. So I guess it's just the congestion that goes into it. So look, Soldier Field, it's an older stadium. You don't have the roof, so you're losing out, on 5 months a year where the winter is going to be too bad and everything. So I'm all for the new stadium, but they're the Chicago Bears, guys. You at least got to be in Illinois.
Well, isn't Kansas City moving across the state border too? Aren't they actually going to Kansas now?
That still confuses me. I couldn't tell you which Kansas City they're even trying to belong to in the first place, man.
I went there for the Underdog Dog Bowl. Code Mayo at Underdog, by the way. Get yourself a nice little deposit bonus so I can go on trips to Kansas City, a place where I had never been before. And, well, I guess the limited times I've been to Chicago, in my mind, you can get to Soldier Field myriad ways. Like, you don't have to drive to Soldier Field, do you? Like, can't you take transit to get there? Like accessible transit?
Yeah, they got the L, they got buses, they got everything. Tailgate scene is fantastic. I think the whole downtown part of Chicago is amazing. Summertime Shy is second to none out there. They have a legit beach, Pat. You got to lay on like cement half the time, but spread a towel out and it'll be fine. So again, love everything about it, but I don't know who decision makers are. Brandon, we got John Warren, the president of the Bears, apparently putting this into motion. So I just know I got, my ear to the pulse of Bears Nation, and they're not happy about it.
I can see that they wouldn't be happy about it, but if I owned a team, I'd want the government to subsidize my building as well, so I didn't have to pay enough money. But good on Chicago for being like, fuck off.
Do you remember the old Bill Simmons HBO show when the whole intro, he's like, he's listing all of his hot takes and he's like, and finally, I think billionaires should pay for their own fucking stadiums. And then it's like mic drop moment. So I'm kind of with Bill there. I don't know.
Apparently the Bears are not. So I guess Indiana's shelling out the money for them.
What is going on with Indiana? They freaking one of the most magical college football seasons we've ever seen. Now all of a sudden they're bringing in the Bears. I tried to find this, but Mark Titus, who's actually from Indiana, went to Ohio State. Now I think works for Fox Sports still, but longtime journalist. he mentioned where like Indiana actually had some sort of like state mandated plan in place to try to become like the sports epicenter of, if not the world, at least the Midwest. I'd say it's going pretty well, man. I mean, we've always respected them as a basketball state, but now they're coming to be like the football capital of the Midwest. As someone who's always been Ohio against the world, man, I don't like this one bit.
No, I can see that. With the stadium moving to where it's scheduled to locate too, like how far is it from Soldier Field? Like if they had moved to the suburbs anyway, is it actually that much farther to go to wherever it is they plan on building this in Indiana?
That's a good question.
I don't think that it is. When I looked at a map, it didn't seem like it was all that different.
I saw another tweet basically saying like, hey, Cincinnati Bengals, we're coming for you guys next because they're pretty much on the border anyway. That's another conversation, man. Bengals might as well be the Kentucky Bengals. I'll say it.
I've never been to Cincinnati. Is that right on the border?
Dude, I used to work at PFF and they were downtown Cincinnati. I missed my exit my first day of work and I had to turn around to Kentucky. And it is the only part of Ohio that like literally they love their Bearcats, they love their Reds, they love the Bengals, which, good for them and everything. I enjoy my time in Cincy, but the rest of the state is Buckeyes, and all the Cleveland sports teams. So, Cincinnati, they want to go and succeed down south. No complaints here.
Well, let's talk about the Bears a little bit more of what's going to happen on the field. Do you worry about Odunze and this foot injury? Because from what I've been reading, and this is from like internet doctors, so take that with a grain of salt, but when people have this injury in the foot, that they're never really able to get back to where they used to be. And we saw that down the stretch with Odunze. He was fine, but he wasn't the guy that we saw the first 6-7 weeks of the season.
Yeah, I'm seeing like active Twitter doctors disagreeing, but like agreeing to disagree with each other, but they all seem to agree that the re-aggravation potential risk is higher at the end of the day. So I think that's what matters. The big thing that stuck out to me, and this is from actually Dr. Jeff Mueller at JM Thrive PT, does a great job equating some of the more doctory stuff to actual, layman's terms and specifically fantasy football analysis. But he was saying the big part for him is that Rome did not actually get the foot surgery. So he's kind of hoping for this to heal correctly on its own. Again, according to Dr. Mueller, reoccurrence risk of injury is 5 to 7 times higher due to the altered biomechanics and the compensation issues going on. So it really sucks, Pat, because again, it was easy to look at the splits last year and say, oh, wide receiver 12, the first 8 weeks of the season was doing great things. And then he just had the injury and he's playing through it. But, when we're playing through the injury, there's the idea in our head that they're going to be healthier for the following season. Can't be assuming that for Rome right now.
Well, Burton's being drafted ahead of him already in early drafts. Obviously, DJ Moore is now in Buffalo and not on the scene. How do you expect that the target tree ends up coming out in year 3 of Caleb Williams? Like, where is Loveland on this pecking order? Like, what does this receiving core look like?
I think it's Loveland joining, if not even getting to the top of that Bowers McBride tier 1 of tight ends. You look at the last 4 games of the season where Rum was a little bit banged up, all right? But we had DJ out there. We had Burton ascending and doing his thing. Playoff football, like the most important stretch of the year. Week 17 through a divisional round, Loveland had 48 targets. That was 21 more than the next closest wide receiver or just any player on the team. So Loveland obviously made great use of it. He's the guy I've been clicking, Pat. It's round 4. It's Burton and Loveland are basically going right next to each other, and it's tough. But for me, again, getting Loveland, I think we're getting someone who very easily could be the tight end 1 overall by the end of the year, and maybe even the dynasty tight end 1 at the end of the year, because we're going to look at the Ben Johnson, Caleb Loveland partnership and just say, is it that much, worse actually than Mendoza and Bowers and Kubiak? So very excited about what Loveland could do. But man, I've been going through these slow drafts. I'm in round 4 in all of them. It's like, I want to really try to take both these guys, would have to force it. Do you have any strong takes on the Bears offense right now?
Not really, no. But if the if the price of Burden and just thinking about it from a macro level of how I would want to approach my drafts, be it in a best ball, be it in a redraft league, dynasty league, it wouldn't matter. That if you're giving me what could potentially be similar production between a tight end and receiver, give me the tight end.
Right. I'm with you. And he's going a good bit after, McBride and Bowers. Bowers, you got to get in the middle of round 2 right now. McBride's not much behind him. So honestly, like for me, I've been kind of doing the Ricky Bobby first or last thing with tight ends. Tyler Warren goes a little bit after Loveland, and I think losing Pittman from that Colts offense, less mobile Daniel Jones, I could see Warren, breezing past 120 targets in his own right. But after that, it's like, Why pay up for a Sam Laporta or a Kyle Pitts when I can just wait and all of a sudden get a couple of, your Dallas Goddard, and then, Isaiah Likely way later on. So if I'm going to go in a tight end, make it be a baller at the top. Those mid-round guys can get lost.
Well, George Kittle is also the interesting one here because George Kittle's right now going at tight end 9 outside of the top 100, but the rumors are starting to float around that he might be ready for week 1. I don't know how good he's going to be in week 1, but coming off an Achilles tear, that seems surprising, but here we are.
But Pat, it was an accelerated speed bridge Achilles tear. All right. Totally different. Totally different. I did not know there were multiple different types of Achilles repairs. Apparently his was the less, bad one. They didn't have to actually drill into his heel. And everyone from Kittle to Lynch to Shanahan seemed to be pointing to a week 1 return. So they are in Australia. So maybe just chill a little bit and make it a week 2 thing. But seems like it's going to be, a good timeline to return for Kittle. Would say, as someone who I believe is already 33, it's a crowded offense. Like we've always needed Kittle to be one of the world's best tight ends in order to make the most out of, less than stellar target shares. So would make sense if, 80% of Kittle isn't able to be the same guy. But, when he's being drafted as tight end 9, you could argue that's already baked in plenty.
Yeah, would you take 80% of peak George Kittle at pick number 117, or would you just enjoy to take Tucker Kraft at pick 80, who's also coming off a season-ending injury?
I'm probably going with Kittle, man, because, again, same thing with Kraft. Also with Kraft, like, the booms were great. Don't get me wrong. A lot of fun to watch, but you kind of look at these charts where it's like, how far are they being thrown downfield? How much yards after the catch? Kraft is just constantly getting these like 3 to 4 yard dump offs and making crazy stuff happen with the ball. So again, one of these guys where he is going to be at less than 100% potentially could impact him more than others. So interesting Packers offense though. Christian Watson, Jaden Reed got the extensions. Matthew Goldenhive is still somehow not dead yet. But I do wonder, Pat, because we got the whole Josh Jacobs thing going on. He's back at OTAs. He's practicing. They're doing business as usual for right now. But Jacobs' efficiency kind of waned a little bit. He got injured, down the stretch and everything. But I look at his offense and Jordan Love, I think highly of. Who's to say LaFleur doesn't just air it out this year? I feel like the best part of this Packers offense is their passing game. Maybe they lean into it, man. And now it's finally condensed for us.
When is Micah Parsons expected back?
Micah, so I heard this. The Packers have this thing where I guess Micah had a previous ACL injury, maybe at Penn State earlier in his career. When a player tears their ACL for the second time, they have like an automatic, I think, 8-month recovery. Like they mandate it no matter what for players in their organization. So he is for sure starting the season on the pup, hopefully week 5.
Okay. You get him back. You start having an aired out offense, get ahead in games, give him more time to attack with that defense. That actually makes a lot of logical sense.
Yeah, man, this was a Packers team that I think they were like 10-3 before the wheels kind of fell off at the end of the year. So obviously a big-time Super Bowl contender the way that defense was playing early. That said, new man running the defense, Jonathan Gannon, Pat. So I don't know. Obviously had to do some good things earlier in his career to get the head coaching job in Arizona, but something about head coaches who, are defensive-minded, defensive personality, and then they don't have a good defense. I don't know. I'm torn on Green Bay this year. Very, very tough division. I'm kind of more in, I would say, on the Bears leading away and running away. Maybe not running away with this thing, but I can see the Packers falling off, man. I see an easier just kind of path to greatness in my mind for the Bears and also the Lions, who now get this fourth place schedule out of nowhere.
They do, but I mean, the Lions, they ended up in 4th place, but they finished, 8-9 last year? Or did they finish 9-8? Now I can't remember.
They were all 8-9. It was a mess. I had to check like 20 times, see like actually verify Lions were in fact in 4th place. The JJ McCarthy led Vikings somehow got third. They were all 9-8, 9-8, 9-8, 9-7-1 because we had the Packers Cowboys clock operator tie and the 11-6 Bears in first.
I want to go back to the Niners for a second with Mike Evans being there now. Obviously, I don't think that hurts Kittle as much, except for in the red zone. If everyone's running at peak, do you think that would mean fewer red zone targets or at least end zone targets for George Kittle? Not that you were relying all that much on the amount of touchdowns he had, but if you bring Mike Evans into that mix, like that's kind of what he's there for.
100%. You also lose Juwan Jennings from a situation. He was kind of like their bigger bodied receiver before. In their like prime 2022, 2023 years, they were usually just, using Jennings as more of this block first wide receiver 3 type, but 15 touchdowns for Juwan Jennings over the course of these past 2 seasons. So again, it's one of these offenses where none of us would be surprised if San Fran finishes first in scoring. And when that happens, we can see all parties involved continue to be fine, especially with Evans and Kittle because of their age and some of the injury stuff being a little bit cheaper than you might otherwise otherwise think. So I'm not really holding the presence of Evans against Kittle. I do think Evans, though, is a pretty fun click. Him, Devontae Adams, and Terry McLaurin, they're like in this unk tier, in that like low end borderline wide receiver 2 range right now, where, I don't want to leave every draft with one of these, 33-year-old guys who certainly has probably already played the best football of their career. But it's one of those picks, Pat, where like you're drafting him wide receiver 25, and then you get to week 1 ranks, and it's like, oh yeah, Mike Evans is healthy. He's my wide receiver 9.
Well, Christian Kirk is there too, manning the slot, which he showed.
Is he?
He is. I mean, who were they going to put Demarcus Robinson back? I mean, if Demarcus Robinson was able to have good games for them anyway, Christian Kirk, if healthy, big if, has shown some flashes of being a capable receiver. Even in Jacksonville, it was one thing. In Houston, he was like okay for a bit.
I know. I don't want to hate on my guy, Christian Kirk, but I just look at Mike Evans. I look at your guy, Ricky Bullets, maybe finally healthy. I actually saw something saying he's already sitting out of some practices. So come on, injury gods. Give Ricky Pearsall a chance just for once. I think it's those two. We know they love using juice check, obviously Kittle and their, multi-running back or multi-tight end formation. So I just think, man, you use, again, the 33rd overall pick on DeZon Stribling. Maybe Kirk is the de facto number 3 wide receiver, but I can see that being split. And I can see Stribling, taking his chain here before too long.
Is there any of, if you had to power rank the rookies for just this year only as usefulness to us in fantasy, how would that go for you?
Jeremiah Love would have to be one. None of them are really popping off, though. I mean, Jeremiah Love, okay, you pick any running back inside the top 5, in his case, the top 3. You have a reasonable expectation for 300 plus touches, but the offense suck. And it is one of those weird spots where if they keep Tyler Algier and James Conner, like we could be at the end of week 1. Predictably, Cardinals scored 6 points, but we're like, wait, why did Love only play 60% of the snaps out there? So not a great situation. He has fallen down in that kind of RB 13, 14 range. So you don't have to draft him as high as like an Ashton Genty. But again, Bijan Robinson, even as amazing as he is, Arthur Smith, Tyler Algier, like we have seen these guys have a little bit of a slow start out of the gate. So even as generational, if you will, as Jeremiah Love is, could be a bit of a slow start. The wide receivers are more interesting. Carnell Tate, Jordan Tyson, also getting that top 10 draft capital. Those would be the next 2 guys that we're really, trying to be going after in redraft or best ball. But even Tate, man, I like Cam Ward, the flashes, 2 or 3 per week that you're just like, look at the arm talent on this dude and his ability to create off script. You can see the vision, but you just have to couple that with, I know what my eyes see, but I also know that every single other stat kind of tells me he was really bad. And then obviously with Jordan Tyson, still coming back from the hamstring injury. He was my wide receiver 1 pre-draft. I believe in the kid's talent, but Tyler Shuck, we're basing off 8 games of a rookie season, and we know Chris Olave is there as well. So it's one of those things, Pat, like we see running backs more than other positions still find a way as rookies to do really big things, but I think the wide receiver craze has been a little bit overstated. Over the last 10 years, only 15 rookie wide receivers have even been a wide receiver 2 in fantasy, so only 1.5 per year. Right now, none are even projected to hit that.
It felt like a lot of those came in the same year, too. Like when 1 hit, 3 hit.
Sammy, OBJ, and Evans in 2014, I believe, bonkers year. There's another one more recently, Nabers, BTJ, and Ladd doing their thing. So you're right, man. It's like 1 year we'll have 3 or 4, and then we'll have a couple off years as well.
Yeah, looking right now, Jeremiah Love's going at pick number 23. That's running back number 13. He's been around that since we've been going. That means he's ahead of ETN, who's now in New Orleans, and then you have Breece Hall, who just signed that big extension with the Jets that – listen, this is not usually a pro Jet show, but that seems like a pretty good spot to take Hall instead. Because there's a worse, I don't know if it's a worse situation or not. Like, if you had a talent compare, I'm asking you to be scout Ian Hartitz for a minute. If put in the same draft as rookies, Genty and Love were next to each other, who would have went first?
I think Genty still goes first.
And Genty was... The fantasy stats got there because he didn't get hurt and played all year. But it was like having, remember when Frank Gore used to finish as running back number 12 for the year, but on a per game basis, he'd be like 36th. He just happened to play all the games. That was Genty from last year. And I don't think this situation is any better for Love in Arizona than it was for Genty with the Raiders.
And the thing with Genty last year, too, was he was really rough for like 6 or 7 straight weeks. And then he played Houston in like week 16. So everyone said, oh my God, it's Houston. I'm done with this. And then that's when he supplies like his only other 25 plus boom game of the season. Cause that's just how the fantasy football, gods tend to work. But I'm with you, man. And the thing is, like, everyone just says, oh, trust the talent for Jeremiah Love. Like Breece Hall isn't talented. Like Devon Achane isn't talented. Omarion Hampton, Derrick Henry. Like when we're at the top of the draft, every single freaking person is talented. And as we all know, the whole idea of, the running backs don't matter craze. It's just that they're the most dependent position on everyone else on the offense. You need a good quarterback to decide where the ball is going. You need a good play caller, a good offensive line. If you remove any of those variables, like we've seen awesome running backs. Look at Jonathan Taylor last season. He was on pace to have a freaking ridiculous potential 2K season. All of a sudden, you replace his quarterback with a literal grandpa, and he falls off the map and is barely fantasy usable during the last week of the season. So it's nothing against Jeremiah Love's talent, but I'm with you, man. We're going to have Carson Beck under center probably sooner rather than later in this team, looking like a disaster class. So right now, I'm a little bit lower on Love. He's my RB15 because I even look at someone like Javonte Williams, man. Boring Javonte Williams, all right? Well, it's like, what is upside? Is it Jeremiah Love being able to run faster and jump higher than Javonte, or is it Javonte falling into the end zone 16 times from the 1-yard line on a Cowboys offense that can't stop scoring touchdowns?
You mentioned some of these running backs that are in unique situations. I've seen you tweeting a bunch about Omarion and Hampton at the moment. Please share if you're pro or a con on Hampton.
I'm definitely not out on the guy. I don't like right now he's going RB8. There's a few guys that would go ahead of him because I'm not trying to do the normal fantasy. Well, I like both sides of it, depending on it. So I'll try to take a stand. I'm out on RB8. I have an RB11, but man, I just want everyone this Chargers offense, Pat. I feel like this could be the number 1 ranked scoring offense this year, okay? They finished 20th last year down the stretch. It really did get rough, but even if you're a Justin Herbert hater, like good luck rationally ranking more than 6 or 7 real-life quarterbacks ahead of him. We have Hampton. Yeah, okay, is his vision the best in the world? No, but he's 220 with first-round draft capital and 4.4 speed. That's a tough man to get in the ground. We bring in Mike McDaniel, who, whether it was as a 49ers run game coordinator or the Dolphins head coach, regularly made more with less in both the passing game and the run game. And then we actually have a passing game that's fairly condensed around Ladd McConkey, Quentin Johnston, maybe around Nick Gatson. The tight end group is the one thing because they brought in Njoku and Kohler. I'm not really super in on Gatson. But I just think, again, trusting McDaniel, trusting Harbaugh, who's had one mid-NFL team his entire head coaching career. Otherwise, they've been ripping off 11-win seasons like no other. Maybe Harbaugh and McDaniel just decide they want to run the hell out of the ball. That would be kind of how my overall pro Herbert, McConkey, QJ assertion goes a little bit off. But I don't know, Pat. All these guys, I want to be trying to buy in on them. So Hampton, though, himself, the concern, I guess, would be Kamani Vidal shaving into things. He did at these down the stretch. They brought in, pint-sized speedster Keaton Mitchell. Funny story with that. Mike McDaniel apparently put wanted posters of Keaton Mitchell on their GM's wall during the offseason. So got what he wanted there. But again, I think the plus scenario for Hampton is he's the lead back of an offense that can also be scoring touchdowns at will. So tough to be overly mad at that. And just the last thing here, like you look at his numbers before literally fracturing his ankle in week 5, yards after contact, missed tackles forced, man. He was up there with literally anyone in the league.
And Slater and Alter back. I think that there's no bigger impact on any team this year with guys returning. Like, getting Mike McDaniel is awesome for this offense, and he should be able to run some unique schemes, get guys into space, and that's why he wants someone like the Keaton mask out there in order to hit the edge, break down the field, be as fast as possible. But getting 2 essentially all-pro tackles back will just allow Justin Herbert to operate, which we saw in that playoff game. And if you watch the Chargers at any point during the final 10 weeks of the season, dude just didn't have time to do anything.
100%. I somehow ranted for like 2 minutes about the Chargers and didn't bring up the most important point. So good job by you, Pat. Also fixed the interior of the offensive line with other guys, all right? They signed Commander Center Tyler Biadasz, ex-Dolphins guard Cole Strange. They drafted Jake Sargent Slaughter, the Florida center in round 2 or whatever. Charlie Kohler, they now made him, I think, the highest paid blocking tight end in the league. So again, so many things in addition to Mike McDaniel going on with the Chargers. Because again, it's always like, do you want to trust the Jimmies and Joes or the X's and O's? I think we have both going the right direction in Los Angeles. Oh, hey, Pat, all Los Angeles Super Bowl? I don't know. Script writers? We'll see.
Summer's actually the time of year when I notice bad sleep for me the most because the days are longer, the kids are running around nonstop, they're staying up later because it's so gloriously bright out throughout the course of the night, and then they tell me, It's not bedtime. It's not dark out. Although that logic never applies in the wintertime when it gets 4:30 p.m. dark out. Now, does it, kids? But I'm outside more. I'm playing more golf. And if I don't get a good night's sleep, I feel awful the next day. It's one of the reasons I've been so happy with my Helix mattress. I've now had mine for a couple years, and it's been a massive upgrade from what I was sleeping on before. I fall asleep faster, stay asleep longer, and I wake up feeling far more recovered. That's the important part. When you're trying to squeeze the most out of your summer, which I have to where I live, it's a pretty big deal to me. What I really like about Helix is they make it easy. Just take their sleep quiz and they'll match you with the mattress that's right for you and your sleep style and preferences. And the summer sale is going on at helixsleep.com right now. So go to helixsleep.com/Mayo for 20% off site-wide. That's helixsleep.com/Mayo for 20% off. Make sure to enter the show name at checkout so they know we sent you. The Travelers Championship. Now is the time. This is the place. Every star, every round, every shot that makes your heart race as legends walk the fairways. Keegan Bradley, Scotty Scheffler, Tommy Fleetwood, Justin Rose, Cameron Young, Xander Schauffele, Colin Morikawa, and other PGA Tour greats, all battling to be called champion. See the world's best for all 4 days. No cut. You'll feel the pressure before the shot, the roar when it drops. You'll stand close enough to see it all, the intensity, the focus, the moment when everything comes down to mere inches, and where everything makes you feel part of the moment. It's golf at its best, up close, open to all, and only here. The excitement starts June 24th and runs through June 28th at TPC River Highlands in Cromwell, Connecticut. For tickets and information, visit travelerchampionship.com. Now is the time. This is the place. Do you like that the Rams traded for Myles Garrett? Like, obviously, yes, but like giving up Jared Verse, giving up first round picks, to me, it felt like a win on both sides because Cleveland's not going anywhere.
Yeah, I mean, you've had Myles Garrett for all these years. Obviously, hasn't been the happiest camper more recently, and they paid him, and he's gone out there and broken the sack record. Still, not questioning his effort or anything like that. But Browns got a pretty good haul for it. Jared Verse, up and coming edge. I think he's equal to another first round pick. You know, if you throw him in this last draft, he's obviously going in the first round as well. So I think they got a reasonable pull for him. It just comes back to the same question we've been asking since Bernie Kosar? Do they have a quarterback? Right now, it doesn't seem like they do.
Wait, are you slandering Shadur Sanders? How dare you? I heard there are pockets of the internet that will tell you he's very good.
I will say he made the Browns look stupid for taking Dylan Gabriel in round 3 over him. Like we can at least admit that Shador was a day 2 prospect, not freaking round 5. What were they doing with Gabriel? That is the most damning thing from the Browns. You guys drafted Dylan Gabriel round 3. Give me a break.
And they could have had Shuck in that spot. Although if you put Shuck on Cleveland, he probably sucks too. But there's a chance that Deshaun starts the year as their quarterback.
I know. It's so bad, man. He had the Achilles tear, and then he retore the Achilles trying to recover it. And this was after he already had the shoulder injury that made him look like a shell of himself. I mean, when Deshaun wasn't his final year, I know I don't even have to go into this much detail. Like every single stat tells he was one of the single worst quarterbacks in the NFL. But like he was just such a shell of himself, mobility-wise and arm strength-wise, relative to the guy that we saw just tearing up the league back there in Houston. So now we're getting to get even older and even more limited version in an offense that, all right, you added Casey Concepcion and Denzel Boston. Like they're a little bit improved, but still wouldn't exactly be ranking those playmakers anywhere near, the top of the league. They're not even close to the average part of the league. So, man, just some of these reporters, if Deshaun puts together a big year, maybe you could be entering free agency, ready to get another contract. NFL is more fun when we have a lot of good quarterbacks around. So if Deshaun pulls off the comeback, good for him, I guess. But I am not betting on that.
So right now, the underdog prediction markets will have you that Sanders would be the favorite with Watson slightly behind, but the gap isn't all that big.
Based on everything we're hearing out of camp, I feel like Watson's the favorite right now. They have way more, I feel like, if you're the Browns, wouldn't you want to start Watson, let him crumble, and then put Shador in? I don't know.
When can they fight? They can get out of the Watson stuff with all the dead cap. They'll still take on dead cap, but after this year, it's not as penal, I believe.
I don't know, man. I don't think the contract ever had now. That's why I'm surprised he's still on the team. I just thought when you're bringing in Monken, you just kind of like rip the Band-Aid off at a certain point and move on as a franchise, but they decided not to. So I am looking at this is like the last year, and then it's voids after that. So.
It's not that it voids. They'll still have to pay him out, but if they cut him, then like what you can spend on other players at that point becomes like $50 million more per year, or something insane like that, if you wait till the end of this year. So the Verse deal makes sense for me on their perspective, because you have Verse for ages. He's still on his rookie contract, so you can get him underneath your cap right now. You can spend on him when the time comes, and you can end up with 2 extra first-round picks out of it. And honestly, after this year, maybe next year, how good are the Rams going to be?
Real quick, though, shout out the Browns. I mean, that Travis Hunter trade looking better and better by the day as well. So, again, got to find their quarterback. That's been the issue, but good job by them at least getting the most that they kind of have been able to for some of these picks. But, yeah, Rams, I mean, I would have said they were Super Bowl favorites. And I think, the betting market said that as well, so not just me. But even before this trade, now you add, again, the single best defender in the NFL. Good freaking luck, man. So, obviously, they stole away the Chiefs starting cornerbacks to help fix up that secondary that was probably even a bigger, issue in their defensive line in the first place. Would be nice to have one additional wide receiver out there. And that's why I think we heard them being in, the A.J. Brown trade talks and stuff. And Mekhi Lemon was a very common, mock draft pick to them at 13 before they went with Ty Simpson. But that's like the only way I can kind of see them failing. But even then, man, like we had that week 16 game against the Seahawks where Devontae Adams was out and Puka just goes for like 250 yards. Stafford throws for 450 against the best freaking defense in the NFL, or at least a top 3 group in Seattle. So, nitpicking, yeah, we'd like a third wide receiver to lean on a little bit, but the run game has been awesome with Kyren and Corum. McVay kind of reinventing that. Stafford playing MVP ball. And they even got a better backup quarterback play now than they had in the past with Ty Simpson. So all wheels up. I'm sure the NFL will mess it up because, it's the NFL, but looks pretty good for the Rams right now.
Kyren or Corum this year? It's Kyren again, isn't it?
It's Kyren, but man, I like drafting Corum where he's going, right? Some Monungai, Rico Dowdle. Like those are kind of like those S tier of handcuff running backs. We still have the potential for flex with benefits and then, wheels up to the moon if the guy goes down. So, and that was the thing, Pat. Every single week, it's fantasy nerds like myself saying, oh, Kyren's workload is getting split down. He's more of a 60-40 back instead of this 80-20 guy, which is true. He didn't get the same touch workload he had in past years, but, 15 to 20 touches per game and the Rams offense is still plenty, still finishes a low-end RB1. So, it is one of those things where Los Angeles, Pittsburgh, like there's a couple of these places where you have this 1A, 1B where like, yeah, maybe the ceilings aren't super high when both are healthy, but if Kyren goes down, ceiling's the roof for Corum. And if Corum goes down, it's the same thing for Kyren right now. So Jarquez Hunter, 0 touches. I think 0 offensive snaps as a rookie. We have seen McVay kind of redshirt some of these rookies, for lack of a better word over the years, maybe not Puka as much, obviously, but some of these running backs have gotten that treatment. So maybe we see a third party emerge, but right now I think both guys are pretty good clicks to cost.
You hit on a fun name there. It was Rico Dowdle. Obviously, he's now in Pittsburgh, but in Carolina, the news that was coming out over the weekend was that Chuba Hubbard's going to have this like workhorse role, much like he did last year to kick off the season before. Try this again. Jonathan Brooks coming back into the fold. Do you think Brooks is actually a good pick? He can do anything here, or is it just one of these situations again? Like we had this discussion last year, and Hubbard did fall off for a while when Dowdle took over that role, but then he ended up getting it back by the end of the year, that Hubbard is just going to be one of these underappreciated assets that you can use on your fantasy team almost every week.
I mean, Chuba, in his defense, like had that calf injury he was playing through, and then Rico goes crazy against, the Dolphins and Cowboys. He looked good in those games. I'm not trying to take away a player's good games and say, look at the rest, but I do think it was kind of like the perfect storm of trying to play through an injury, Rico getting a couple nice matchups and making the most of them. So to your point, yeah, Chuba really just made it more of a 50-50 thing down the stretch. Would expect him, with that, again, like $33 million contract extension he got in 2024 to get every chance to lead the way. I will say, though, before the latest Panthers beat report told us Chuba was going to be the leader, we had one last week saying that Brooks was potentially coming for the job, and the Panthers felt, comfortable letting Rico walk because of everything with Jonathan with the O at the end, which pisses off my Microsoft Word every time I write about the Panthers, but with him coming back. So only going to be 23 here in mid-July, Pat. So it's not like Brooks is exactly long in the tooth at this point. And I will say, love all of our Twitter doctors. From what I can gather from Dr. Jeff Mueller, he actually equates Brooks as more so like his knee didn't initially repair correctly. So the second tear was actually more so like another surgery to kind of fix the previous one.
Oh,
so
good thing.
he looks at it. Yeah, so he looks at it more as like one injury as opposed to two separate tears for what it's worth.
Always got to like those blowing out your knee good things.
Yeah. This blown out knee is less bad. It's like George Kittle's Achilles, Pat. It's all relative here.
A.J. Brown gets traded finally to the New England Patriots. It feels like we've had a while to stew over all of this. So let's look at it from both ways. What production can we expect from A.J. Brown now with Drake May? Obviously, Stefon Diggs isn't there anymore. It's a situation where they were lacking a high-end wide receiver a year ago. I don't think that's the reason that they lost in the Super Bowl. I think they lost in the Super Bowl because, frankly, they just were not all that good and were the benefactors of some really good situations in the playoffs getting through the AFC. Credit to them. They made it and then kind of shit all over themselves in the Super Bowl. But with A.J. Brown there, I mean, this is a guy that we could barely rely on in Philadelphia. Like, by the time that everyone gave up on him, yeah, he got good again. But people were running him out as a top 5 receiver every single week. It did not work out that way. Is he a top 10 receiver coming into the year?
I think last year, a big issue with Brown was he had this, August hamstring injury, which I think honestly impacted him as the season went on, re-aggravated it in October. And it's one of these things where I think the guys play through the injuries and, we see them limited, full, and they're kind of off the injury report. And we're like, all right, whatever, they must be fine. Could have been a little bit more impact. So he did get going late. As you said, a lot of our fantasy teams are already 2-8. So I'm not saying he was a league winner or anything like that. But when I see, some of the efficiency numbers drop offs, and yeah, admittedly, he kind of did have his worst year in Philly from a counting number perspective, some of the drops going on. I just think it was a mix of injury, being unhappy with the same scheme that had all of us talking heads screaming every single Monday, of the following week about how the Eagles need to do things better. And also Jalen Hurts, let's face it, not being the best professional thrower of the football, albeit he does some good things in the run game. So very easy, I think, to paint, a prettier picture around the upside case for A.J. Brown. And I do think he's a top 10 wide receiver going into next season. I got him right in that Drake London, Nico Collins tier. But man, Pat, motivated AJB. Like, did you see the picture difference? He's holding the Lombardi in the Eagles uniform, looking pissed off. He's just got the football in the Patriots uniform. Life is good again, man.
So in terms of range where he's going, there's like a big drop off after the top 6. You got like in fantasy. So you got Chase, Puka, JSN, Amon-Ra, CD, and Jefferson. Those are your 6. Then there's this like little mini tier that basically just has Drake London on it going at number 7. Then you're into A.J. Brown, Nico, Pickens, Olave, and his old teammate, Devonta Smith. But the Patriots also picked up Romeo Doubs in the offseason as well. What would you give me if I had to set the odds right now that I said that Romeo Doubs is going to score more fantasy points than A.J. Brown? What would that line have to be for you to bet it?
Overall would be lesser because you can just say maybe AJB has a higher injury chance. They get the report about his knee. I'd need like plus 400 overall per game, man, probably like plus 750.
Okay, so it's that big of a lot. I don't know if the gap between them fantasy points wise is going to, I think you're going to see the big games come from A.J. Brown, but I think you're going to see Doubs be involved a lot in this offense.
Well, the problem last year, to your credit, we had these like 5, like Mac Hollins, Kayshon Boutte, Demario Douglas, Kyle Williams is out there getting a little run. Like Stefon Diggs was their number 1.
Hold on. Kyle Williams didn't get a little run. He got a lot of run. And that's all he did was just run.
Exactly. Well, exactly. Right. But every single week we looked at the kind of routes afterwards, and there was like 5 different guys being involved. You would think trading a first-round pick for AJB and obviously giving Romeo Doubs, $72 million or however much he ended up getting, they should be cemented in it. I'm a little like, I would think Pop Douglas is still going to be in the slot, but you got Boutte, you got Hollins, you got Kyle Williams again. Like, I feel like there's a trade that still needs to be dropping here. Boutte's kind of been the guy they've been talking a lot more about that. People want them to cut Mac Hollins just because like we're not going to draft Mac Hollins. He's annoying, but he's still like, a badass blocker and actually did have some good chemistry with Drake May down the field. I guess the thing where it could go wrong, Pat, maybe my assumption's off. Maybe they say we like our backup wide receivers. AJ, love you. Doubs, you're the man, but maybe it is continually split. Stefon Diggs was the one last year, but he wasn't that great in fantasy land, even though all the yards per route run, all the, advanced metrics told us that Stefon Diggs was an amazing wide receiver 1 caliber player last season, but he didn't play enough to actually put that up in fantasy land. So honestly, man, we do see that rotation. I don't know how happy AJB would be about it, but could be a situation where, we're a little bit disappointed with everyone involved, even if Drake May and the offense as a whole are doing their thing.
Well, regression from this offense, just on the whole, probably seems likely based on the schedule they played last year, and now they're playing a first place schedule. It's
Sure.
gonna be the same thing with the Bears, isn't it?
I don't know, man. Year 2, Caleb Ben Johnson. Look, Caleb is
They won every
worse
game
than,
with 20 seconds left.
it wasn't that bad. They did good in one score games. People act like they're like the 2024 Chiefs who were 11-0 and then they went to 1-9. I'll look at it right now. The Bears were good in one score. They were 7-4 in one score games last year.
Yeah, but how many games did they win by being down like with a minute left in the game?
Sorry for having freaking ice in the veins, man.
It's hard to keep. Sometimes that melts, or it gets slightly more temperate, and it's not quite as cold as it used to be. I guess I think you're right that you're going to see the Doubs and Brown show in New England, and the reason that Stefan Diggs, at least on a per route basis, was really good. That's fine and everything is your number one, but coming off that injury that they just could not play him 100% of the snap. What was he around, like 58% of the snaps last year? I think that was more because of his health limitations rather than the player in the scheme that they actually wanted to run.
Yeah, I think there's probably a lot of truth in that. Honestly, a similar sentiment to Dalton Kincaid in the Bills, where it's like we see a guy not playing enough, and I think over time we maybe lose like the why to that potential reason. So Kincaid's another guy we could talk about maybe a little bit as a good late round bet because, again, some of these guys, so many situations, like if the only issue you have is like, well, they were limited because of an injury in the past, then it's like, well, what if they're healthier?
Starting something new is terrifying. I remember right before launching this show thinking, what if no one listens? What if it completely flops? And that's something that has persisted every time that I hit record and go to edit a show, even as I'm recording this right now. It never goes away. But taking that leap ended up being one of the best decisions I ever made. And honestly, having something like Shopify back then would have made it a whole lot easier. Shopify is the commerce platform behind millions of businesses. Whether you're just getting started or scaling up, you can build a clean, professional store with ready-to-use templates that actually match your brand. No coding headaches. And it's not just a storefront. Shopify's got built-in AI tools to help write product descriptions, improve your pages, even upgrade your images. Plus, you can run email and social campaigns right from the platform like you've got a full marketing team behind you. That would have been great like 15 years ago, not gonna lie to you. Best part, everything lives in one place. Inventory, payments, analytics, so you're not juggling 5 different tools to run your business. It's time to turn those what ifs into with Shopify today. Sign up for your $1 per month trial at shopify.com/PatMayo. Go to shopify.com/PatMayo. That's shopify.com/PatMayo. Season's changing, which means I need to flip my entire wardrobe, and I looked at my closet and I started thinking, why do I own so much junk that I never actually wear? I've been trying to scale it back. Fewer things, but better stuff. And honestly, that's why I keep going back to Quince over and over. Their pieces just make sense. The fabric feels legit, real quality, not that fake premium marketing nonsense that they send me on Instagram. That stuff sucks. What you want is super breathable, really comfortable clothing that looks sharp without trying too hard. Even the Flow Knit activewear. That's the sneaky one for me. It's soft, moisture wicking, doesn't stink, and you can wear it all day and not feel gross, which is a big win for me. The kicker is the price. It's like 50 to 60% less than what you'd expect to pay for this level of quality because they cut out the middleman and go straight to the source. So you're not paying for a logo, you're paying for good clothes. Refresh your wardrobe with Quince. Go to quince.com/mayo for free shipping and 365-day returns. Now available in Canada too. That's QUINCE.com/mayo. Quince.com/mayo. On the other side, you have Devonta Smith, who I mentioned, who's just going slightly after A.J. Brown now. How would you expect that the Eagles' receiving core shakes out between Liz Lemon, Dontavian Wicks, Devonta Smith? You still got Goddard in the mix. And as you mentioned, Hurts, good quarterback, maybe not the air assault quarterback that you're looking for to put up fantasy points, but this just, even with Lemon getting drafted, this just feels like a lot of Devonta Smith.
I hear you, man. That's kind of been the case when we did see Devontae without AJB in 2024. 3 full games. He had 10, 10, and 9 targets, again, kind of as the featured wide receiver for Philly. So Mekhi being a first-round pick, obviously I thought he deserved to be in that top 3 wide receiver tiers. So very excited about what he could do in the future. But again, people actually wanted to comp him to JSN, and I think we could honestly maybe see a similar early career trajectory where still kind of rounding into form physically and obviously catching up in the nuance of the NFL level. This was a guy, Mekhi Lemon, who starting off, he actually got snaps as a cornerback at USC in addition to wide receiver. So he is a little bit more raw, I would say, coming out. Would make sense if he's again a little bit eased into being this top tier NFL and especially fantasy wide receiver. So I do think it's Devontae, definitely number 1. Dallas Goedert, maybe a sneaker winner. Look, Jalen Hurts, again, if we want to rank just the pure throwers of the football, I don't think he's going to be in my top 15. But with that said, A.J. Brown still had 4 1,000-yard seasons, 2 of which almost got to 1,500, and Devontae was still putting up some pretty good numbers in his own right, too. It's just this weird thing, Pat. We have it going on in Philly and Washington. We got these former David Blau and then Sean Mannion, former backup quarterbacks who are being put into OC jobs. They've never called plays in their life, but they say a couple nice things in the press conference. We didn't like the previous play callers, and we're just really hoping for his turnaround. I look at the Eagles' offensive line getting a little bit older, could be a little bit healthier this year, but I don't know. Those things usually don't exactly correlate all that well. I just wonder, did we really see the worst version of the Eagles' offense? Because everyone says, oh, Kevin Patullo, they could not get any worse than last year. You just removed a wide receiver that most people still consider to be a top 10 real-life wide receiver. What if the Eagles without A.J. Brown are worse, Pat? Yeah, more smiles in the locker room. More defenders in that box, too, man, without A.J. freaking Brown to worry about on the outside.
Well, it didn't matter last year. You could put 4 guys in the box against Saquon and brought him down right away. It's the offensive line, man. The offensive line went from being the best to very bad.
And that Saquon bounce back is tough, too, because everyone says, well, he had 480 freaking touches the year before. That's why he was wore down. Was 346 more touches in another year around the globe? Is that all of a sudden going to bring out the better results? So round 2, Saquon, I've been clicking. I don't know. Pat, what's your overall RB philosophy, man? Because these numbers, man, they're so volatile. Guys get older, they get injured, they come back without rhyme or reason. I want to just start becoming maybe a vibes-based RB drafter at this point.
I think that's the way to go. Just take McCaffrey, number 1. And if he has a good season, you're going to win. If he gets hurt, you're going to lose.
Would you go CMC over Bijan and Gibbs, or just those 2?
I'd probably go with Gibbs over Bijan. I haven't quite fallen on a side yet. And listen, they probably deserve to be number 1 and 2 off the board. Just the McCaffrey thing is just so interesting when you go back and track how he has played overall, that the years he doesn't get hurt, he's a part of X amount of the highest percentage of winning fantasy football championship teams. And Gibbs could potentially take that role now as long as those receiving numbers kick up. Because that's always the hardest thing to mind. That for years, it was Brian Westbrook was this guy. Yeah. That when you watch Brian Westbrook, and even with McCaffrey, you watch him, you're like, man, dude averages 3 yards a carry. How is this guy any good? But it's volume, it's touches. And then all of a sudden he puts up a game where he has 13 catches, 18 catches. It's okay. They'll find ways to get him the ball. And Gibbs can get to that level. I don't know if Bijan will, is the thing. I just feel like they don't want to overuse him. And maybe Gibbs is a part of that same question mark as well, but it just feels like now in Detroit that he has to be the workhorse. And we saw him be the workhorse. He was untouchable as the best running back.
Yeah, and I just think the tiebreaker for Gibbs and Bijan, it's all right, we all agree they're 2 of the best running backs on the planet. We know they can be these game breaker, home run hitters and also catch the football. And we know they're in situations where the workload really isn't a problem. Good note for Gibbs. We had to at least add in the Dave Montgomery caveat in past years. The difference for me is just the offensive environment. Fantasy Life, we do have team-wide projections. Lions this year projecting to score the 2nd most offensive touchdowns per game. Falcons are in there at 21st. So, yeah, Kevin Stefanski did some good things with Nick Chubb, 4 or 5 years ago. I get it. That was fun times. And Bijan's the man. But you do look at those last 2 Browns offenses, man. I do look at Atlanta, and it's not exactly the model organization for running a great football team over the past 10 years. So I've been going Gibbs over Bijan. But, you have 102 and you take Bijan. Not going to call you crazy.
Now, I think even just talking this through a little bit, I would be team Gibbs only because the floors feel about the same, but the ceiling feels larger for Gibbs.
Yeah, 2009 CJ2K ceiling for Gibbs.
I wouldn't put it one of the greatest seasons all time as I guess the theoretical
That's
ceiling, sure. Maybe. Who is there?
I'm not trying to discredit Chris Johnson, man, but I don't know. Gibbs is a freaking baller.
Chris Johnson was so good for 3 years.
Yeah. Just speed, speed, speed. They can catch the ball. They got the dreads. They look freaking cool out there.
And it's funny because he did. Well, I think the 2,000-yard season was still when they had Lendell White, wasn't it?
Yeah, dude. Lendell White, he's been a funny Robin to some pretty awesome Batman seasons. Reggie Bush with the Trojans and stuff too. No, I saw like a mini clip, and it was Chris Johnson talking about that season. Like the things he did as a receiver too. We all remember the CJ2K. He also had 500 receiving yards that year. 2,509 total yards, Pat. I believe that's still the all-time record. And, it'll probably get broken at some point when we have like actual aliens playing football in 50 years. But man, 2009 CJ2K, what a season.
Malik Nabers was being drafted as pick number 17 2 months ago. You can get all of the ADPs. They're all free. They're all up at 4for4.com. He is currently being drafted at number 37. So he's dropped 20 spots in the past 2 months, most of which has surfaced after that softball video people saw him play where his running gait, very bad. A lot of bad vibes around Malik Nabers right now.
Not good ones, man. That's for sure. So I would like to sit here and have an optimistic update, but it's sounding more and more likely that pup could be a realistic option. We've heard that from Harbaugh himself talking about, not that Harbaugh said pup, but he's been like, it's a complicated recovery. We're taking it day by day. Jordan Renando has even been reporting that, yeah, it is a situation where the optimism has not been improving as it's gone on. So also heard, I think it was Harbaugh saying like, this is Nabers' first major injury. So they want to be very deliberate with bringing him back from that. So honestly, I think he deserves to be going kind of right there with Rashee Rice, where you start kind of getting this problem and just sense that, hey, these guys are not sure things. But I'm in a bunch of slow drafts, man. I've been seeing Nabers falling to round 4 regularly. But do you think it's a situation, Pat, like how far, if we do get pup confirmed for Nabers, do you think he could fall? Like we got Abuka, Burden, and Garrett, wide receivers like 19 through 21. I don't think Nabers falls past the Unks, Evans and Terry, but maybe.
That's around pick 50, but maybe so. Like if it was today and you had to pick your one team, your final team, and you had that decision of other receivers going around Malik Nabers right now, it's, as you mentioned, Rashee Rice, Zay Flowers, Tet McMillan, and T. Higgins. Like I like Zay Flowers enough. I would just roll the dice on Nabers because I might get the wide receiver one out of that mix, where I know that's never going to be the case with Zay Flowers. But I would still have a tough time clicking the button knowing that he could just be out.
Well, Zay Flowers slander aside, Pat, someone who gave us a wide receiver 1 caliber season last season. I'm with you. I don't want to be click on Nabers. You might not be getting the guy until November that we can actually be treating him as that wide receiver 1. It's also an offense, man. Like we're hoping they're going to be good. Jackson Dart, I like what I saw, particularly off script and everything last year. Didn't have a bunch of good guys to throw to, but more so a fantasy godsend because of what he was doing running the football and throwing it. Didn't have anyone to throw to. I get it. Matt Nagy, like we're doing this again. That's the offensive mastermind that we have going on. And if he fails, Greg Roman's coming in to go ahead and set up Malik Nabers. So look, Malik Nabers, top 5 real life wide receiver. If you want to say that when he's healthy, I won't overly disagree with you, but I just kind of want to let someone else draft him this year. If you are going to do it, man, you better have that IR spot ready to go.
Last thing, chances Michael Pittman scores more fantasy points than DK Metcalf.
Probably pretty good, man. How about Pittman? After his rookie year, he's basically been a wide receiver 2 in fantasy every year except 2024 when he was playing through a fractured back like freaking Mike Tyson out there. And then 2025, like I think he was wide receiver 17 before, again, a literal grandpa got put under center there. So honestly, I think looking at what he can do out there in the RPO game, working more underneath intermediate areas of the field, it probably is a better match with Aaron Rodgers out there. So, DK, still someone I spent far too much time drafting over the years. It would make sense now that I'm finally off him if he puts forward this big year. But no, man, I think Pittman, very, very good click. That whole range, Pat, the wide receiver 4 range looks to me almost more appealing than the wide receiver 3 range, especially because we have these awesome quarterbacks, basically Burrow, Daniels, Caleb, Drake, and Jalen Hurts. They all go round 6 next to, the Jaguars wide receivers, Mekhi Lemon, Alec Pierce. We get them off the board. Some of the guys from wide receiver 39 on, Jaden Reed, Jordan Addison, Quentin Johnson, Chris Godwin, Michael Wilson, Josh Downs, Jacoby Myers, Ricky Parasol, Xavier Worthy, Michael Pittman. I love trying to get 2 of those guys because then once we get past them, really does seem like that's where the cliff is a wide receiver.
Would you throw Casey Concepcion into that mix?
Can I tell you something, Pat? It doesn't feel good.
Yeah, go ahead.
I can't stop drafting Jerry Jeudy in like round 16. I'm not proud of it. I don't call my mom after and tell her, look what I did. But I like KC. He's still just a rookie in a horrible environment. Is he talented? Yes. Jerry Jeudy had 1,200 yards in this offense in 2024, man. Denzel Boston could be better than KC Concepcion. They're both going rounds ahead of Jerry Jeudy. Like, I think it's a wide open situation with 3 talented wide receivers, and Jeudy is by far the cheapest. Also, a trade candidate if things happen to go wrong. I would have to say Jeudy, if he gets traded to any other team in the league, would instantly be rising up the ADP charts. Give me some Jerry Jeudy this year. What can go wrong?
Were they able to fuse the arm of Jameis Winston onto one of these Browns quarterbacks? Because that could be the real issue here with Jerry Jeudy and any of the Browns receivers. I like Fannin is going as like a top 6 tight end right now. That's great and everything. What is the ceiling for Harold Fannin?
It's these wide receivers don't mesh, and he again takes over. Monken did some great things with tight ends during his time in Baltimore. I get it, but I told you, first or last at tight end. I'm not paying up for Harold Fannin when there's so many other good players on the board right now. Last point, though, you mentioned Jameis. Okay, we had one competent gunslinger willing to feed Jeudy the ball, and he went off. Like, come on. That's not the most damning thing in the world.
No, what I'm saying is I don't think they have anyone capable of doing that for Jeudy on this roster.
I know. Why did the Browns or anyone trade for like a Will Levis, Tanner McKee? Like, there's a couple interesting Spencer Rattler. There's a few interesting backups out there. The fact that they just legit stayed pat. They drafted Taylor Green in round 6. Who even knows if he's going to make the roster? I really thought the Browns might be one of these teams to go out there and try to get one of those backups for, a round 3, round 4 pick, kick the tires and see what happens. Because, like, you've had years to see Deshaun Watson. You got to see Shador. Like, can we just admit they're not going to work? Will Levis, all the memes aside, man, that dude can make some throws. I would have been very excited to see him in Cleveland this year.
I would have too. I was shocked after the reemergence of Malik Willis and how he was able to rehabilitate his game that no one did try to take a chance on Will Levis.
Again, him, McKee, Rattler. I think ship's probably sailed on Trey Lance, but I've kept waiting for kind of the other shoe to drop on some of these trades, especially McKee and Philly, because we've had these rumors that they wanted this day 2 pick. They actually added Andy Dalton and they drafted Cole Payton, their new developmental quarterback. So, but then I look around the league and it's like, all right, the Browns, they did bring in Taylor Green. Not necessarily stopping them from adding someone else. The Jets drafted Klubnik. The Steelers drafted Aller. Like most of those teams where I was kind of thinking, hey, maybe they do try to take a shot on a backup before getting to 2027, rat race for a quarterback. Like it would make sense for them to add one of these guys. But so far, nothing, man. Disappointing to see.
All right. Thanks for catching me up on the NFL, man.
Yeah, bro. Fun time. We'll get Jake back here once his social calendar closes up.
Yeah, well, once he's able to come back, I have a new way I want to do rankings this year, at least the initial rankings, which I think is going to be a lot of fun. So stay tuned to the Pat Mayo Experience. You can follow Ian on X, and you can also check him out at fantasylife.com. I'm at the PME. Sub to the channel, smash a like, and I will see you next time.
Pat Mayo Experience! Experience!